Today's episode of Gold Star Stories is about the love only a sibling can describe. The kind that's built in between tying shoelaces, being tossed around during WWE moves, and silently carrying grief through the years. I'm joined by Angelica Marta, who was just 16 years old when two soldiers showed up at her door with the worst news imaginable. Her brother, Specialist Orlando Antonio Perez, had been killed in Iraq. He was only 23. Orlando wasn't just a soldier. He was goofy, scrawny, and wore thick glasses. He was her protector, her father figure, and her best friend. In this conversation, we talk about the trauma of the knock at the door, the weight of being a forgotten sibling, and the moments that brought unexpected beauty during unbearable pain. This is a story about family resilience and remembering Orlando for who he truly was. The kid who always ironed his clothes, cracked jokes without trying, and made everyone feel like they belonged.
Marine Captain Brian Letendre died earlier this month in an explosion in Iraq. He was 27, a husband and father, and he was buried in Arlington National Cemetery, a few miles from where he grew up. As America observes Memorial Day,
I have been directed by the President of the United States and the Commandant of the Marine Corps to inform you that today, 0530, your son was killed in action while in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Not very many of us can accomplish our goals or our dreams, and he always knew where he wanted to go, and he did it.
A Gold Star family is one who has lost a loved one serving in the United States military. It's a distinction no family ever seeks, a bond shared through sacrifice, remembrance, and profound loss. I'm Nick Letendre, and I've been a Gold Star sibling for over 18 years. In those 18 years, I've learned that while ceremonies fade, medals are stored away, and life continues, the story doesn't end for the families left behind. This podcast is dedicated to remembering those who gave everything for their country and to telling the lesser-known stories, the quiet, powerful journeys of grief, strength, resilience, and hope that follows after the flags are folded and the crowds disperse. These are Gold Star Stories. All right, Angelica, so can you please tell me a little bit about your brother Orlando growing up? I want to get to know him as a person before we start talking about all this other stuff.
He was a really goofy looking kid, actually. He was like super scrawny. He wore super thick glasses, but just a great personality. Would do anything to make you laugh. And that friend you could always like count on to be there. We were raised by a single mom, so he was kind of like my dad at the same time. We had like 7 years apart. So, taught me how to tie my shoes and everything else. So we had a close, bond that way. We also have another sibling, my brother Ed, the middle child. So they were, a lot closer and stuff just because, I was the baby sis, but he was really funny. Just all around like really good, like wholesome, your typical older brother, right? He would be there when you needed him and stuff like that. And he was really my mom's right hand raising me and my brother.
So he was the oldest. He was the oldest firstborn. So that's how it was with my brother too. And I was the baby also. So I can feel where you're coming from. And I have, a middle brother too. How far apart was your middle brother and your older brother?
3 years apart.
3 years. Okay. So they were definitely quite a bit closer then.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha.
And it's funny because our middle brother was bigger than my older brother. So me and my brother Ed have the same mom and dad. And Orlando, we never saw each other as anything different, right? But we look different. And they always had like this competition between each other where they would try to like, him being the older brother would try to dominate Ed. And my brother is 6'1" and like 350, Orlando is like, when he was 23, when he passed, he was like, maybe 180, 190 or something. He got thicker for sure. I don't know what they were feeding him in the army, but he definitely got, thicker. And he would still try to dominate over his little brother, and it just never happened.
I was the one that was subject to that stuff. My brother was 9 years older than me, and my other brother was 7 years older. And they were both Marines. So their favorite thing was like they'd come back from training and be like, "Hey, Nicholas, we just learned how to do a blood choke. Check this out. You're going to feel your tongue go numb for a second." I'm like, no.
Like,
wonderful memories. Exactly. Like, guys, you don't need to, I trust you. I trust that it's going to work. You don't have to do it on me.
Growing up as kids, WWE was a big thing, so I was their rag doll. Ed wouldn't baby me as much as Orlando did, but yeah, they would throw me around or like people's elbow me and stuff. So I get that.
Big brother stuff. So, did you always know that he was gonna be going into the military, or is this something that popped up out of nowhere? I mean, with a 7-year difference, I can see it be hard for you to see that full picture. Like, I didn't always know that my brother was thinking about the Marine Corps until it just happened one day, because
Yeah.
it's a big difference.
He was in JROTC in high school, so it kind of seemed like the next step for him. So yeah, there was some sort of idea of like he really loved the clean look. He was that kid that was always like super sharp dressed. He would iron his clothes every day. Like he was just very rigorous as a, teen growing up, that me and my other brother were like, what do you, like, but that was just him. That was his personality. He just enjoyed always being sharp and dressed to the nines. It seemed to kind of like fall right into place in his
So,
personality.
with you being 7 years apart, you were at home then when the news came through, is that correct? Like, were you living at home still with mom?
Yes, yes. So my brother Ed was working in Maryland at the time, and it was me and my mom, and we lived in New York. So we're originally from Houston, Texas, and we decided to move, or my mom decided to move us to New York for just a better opportunity and stuff. And my brother Orlando was finishing up high school, so he had 2 more years left of high school, and he was like, "Come on, mom, like don't let me move. Like let me just finish school, and I promise I'll move up with you guys whenever this is done." So we're like, okay, or my mom was, right? I didn't know what was going on. I was like, I follow you. And so he stayed in Texas, graduated from Bel Air High School, and me and my mom were in New York. Ed was in Maryland at the time. And yeah, so that was 2008. I was 16 when I got the news, or we got the news. And that was insane. He had just come to visit 2 weeks prior, which was insane.
And do you remember exactly how you got the news?
Oh, yeah. So again, I feel like I have to give that background story. So he came to visit us 2 weeks before he passed. And I don't know, he always kept on saying, like, if anything, the worst has happened. Cause I guess this was his second tour. He was going back once more. And so he was like, if, the worst has happened if you get two dress soldiers knocking at your door. Right. And we're like, whoa, whoa. Like, what are you talking about? Like, December was going to be his 3-year mark. And so, no, I'm sorry. February. Yeah. Was going to be his 3-year mark, and he was going to finish. I don't know what date it is. I'd have to go back and look, but I know he just had like 3 more months before his 3 years, was up. And so he just kept on repeating that, and I don't know why that just stuck with me so much, but it was 11 on a Sunday. And I remember it like super clear, right? It's not something you forget. In New York, it's really common where you live in like duplexes because the rent is insane. And so 2 weeks, right, he goes back. It was 4 days before my mother's birthday. And my mom and him were like really, really close. He never missed a phone call for her birthday or whatever. It was no matter where he was, he always made sure that he made my mom feel special. And she didn't get a phone call that day. So she knew something was off, right? Speed up, February 20, 2008, 11 p.m. We hear this loud knock. Like we had upstairs neighbors and they were always like loud. So we were just like, ugh, like these people again, right? She tells me to go to bed because it's 11 o'clock. It's a school night. I have to go to school the next day. Of course, I didn't listen. I just put my TV on mute and continued watching TV. And so I hear the footsteps and they're loud. And I'm just like, what is going on? And they start walking around toward our doors. Our main entrance was towards the back. The door we had like windows and we had like a curtain covering it up. And I heard them walking around and there was a loud knock, right? Like, like they were the police, or like, oh my gosh. So she yells and she tells me, hey, like go to the door, figure out who it is. Like, I guess she had just gotten out of the shower or something, but she's like, I'm not dressed, like go and tend to the door. So I go and, I pull back the curtain and my brother's words just hit me, right? They're two soldiers, they're dressed, and I just froze. I turned to look at her and I couldn't get the words, They knock again. Sorry. And she's like, what? What is it? Who is it? And I just started shaking my head and telling her, I can't. She's like, Angelica, right? Who is at the door? And so I just got the courage to open it up. They were standing there and they had this little white paper like this. They asked my mom, like, hey, are you Nicolasa, Arevalo, mother of Orlando Antonio Perez? She said yes. And they They told us that he had passed from small arms fire and that they were here to let us know. My mom, both of us couldn't believe it. I mean, we had just seen him, right? 2 weeks ago. He was just here. I had to then call my brother. Now, remember I told you how my brother looked, Ed, right? Big guy. I mean, he's broken bones and fallen down, and I've never seen him cry or heard him cry or anything. And I had to call him and give him the news. And that was the first time I had ever heard him. And we both couldn't believe it. None of us could. I mean, how can you, That whole time was, I don't know, I think I pretended most of 2008 and 9 that he was just either in Texas or still in the army, that denial. My friends are like, hey, do you remember what we did back, so-and-so date? I was like, I have no recollection of 2008 and 2009. I don't remember any. Yeah.
It's one of those things nobody understands till they go through it, the blur. I remember a lot of stories because of the pictures that, have been taken or what people have told me and that I've put together over the years. But really, when I think about it, in particular, the 2 months following my brother's death, it felt like both a blip into my existence and a full lifetime all at once. It's hard to explain. It's just, I think about when he died and then I went off to college. So I was 18. 2 months later, after he died, I left the house for the first time to go live in college. And I'm thinking, looking back on it now, that's no time at all. I still needed to be around family. I still needed to be around loved ones. I went off and, who knows what kind of, ramifications that had on me. I think I feel pretty good about myself now, 19 years later. But
right.
As a sibling, people don't understand how close we are to our siblings because, on the outside, a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, you and your brother probably used to fight all the time and, you called each other names and stuff like that. Well, that's what siblings do,
Yeah, that was our love language.
Exactly. 100%. So and we're always forgotten about. It's crazy to me, everybody that I speak to, that's all the siblings are always my mom, my parents, but nobody ever came back and was like, hey, how are you doing? Do you feel like you got a lot of support being a 16-year-old and going through this, or did you just?
No, I mean, much like you, I dived into work. So even at 16, I was working. I got a job with the police department and was just put my head down and worked. And again, I just pretended like nothing. And people seemed to be like, oh, well, she's fine. She's taking it okay, I felt like I had to be strong for my mom, as my brother, Ed was away and it was just me and her. I was like, I have to be strong for her. I can't, be breaking down, but I would. I remember during my lunch break at the police department, I had to go down into the basement where they had the gym, and that's where I would do my crying. Everybody seemed like I was fine, and I seemed fine to everybody else, but deep down, I was just ignoring.
We don't want other people to feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
It's easier for me to put on a fake face for 5 seconds while I walk past you and to say, oh, I'm doing great.
5 minutes,
then for me to break down in tears and have you feel uncomfortable trying to figure out how to console me and making me feel even more weird about it.
That, and there's no words. What does anybody say to you to make you feel any better? There's
There's not, and I think that's what people need to understand too. I've had so many times, especially when I was a younger adult, where people would be like, my friend just died. What should I say to them? Because they'd come to me like I'm this grief expert all of a sudden because I went through such a tragic loss. And I'm like, bro, I don't even want to talk about this. My way of dealing with grief is to ignore it completely and act like it's not there. So no, I have no words for you to give that's going to magically heal this person. The only thing I can tell you is that it has not gotten better for me yet.
Yeah, well,
it's years and years. I was talking to my kid the other day, so I found these letters from my brother, and the time that he died, 2006, Facebook was just coming out then, so a lot of our memories just aren't digital, and that's one of the things that just kills me. But I have a very few amount of memories of my brother, and I came across this letter that he wrote on the back of an MRE, and I read it probably 4 times to myself, and I was like, cool, I'm going to share this with my kids. They'll like it. I got halfway through that letter and I started bawling. Could not friggin' finish it. And my kids are just like looking at me like, it's okay. It's okay. And I'm like, look, guys, I'm not like crying because I'm sad. It's like I feel him. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just he's
Now
here.
you
You
kinda
know,
get it.
and I want you guys to feel it too. And I go off on these tangents on this podcast constantly because so many people don't know what a Gold Star family is. And for us to have these emotions about this and to have gone through this, and then for people to have not even understand the sacrifice, that's what pisses me off the most, is that my brother gave his life. And there's people out there that just don't think anything of it. That bothers me more than anything. Looking at the support of the family, the siblings, all that kind of stuff. If it was a more known aspect of society, the Gold Star and
Mhm.
what it does, maybe somebody would have asked you along the way, hey, are you okay? Can we get you some support for something? Because I just think of how many other siblings, didn't have that voice. I was 18, so I could somewhat speak up for myself, but 16-year-old for you, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know what the hell's going on. I barely knew what was going on at 18. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but like 16 still is just like devastating.
Yeah. And not only that, but I feel like the whole process to afterwards, right? We didn't really get that support, from the Army. With my mom, English not being her first language, it kind of just felt like we were forgotten about. It was, hey, you okay? And my mom being, strong Latin woman, she was like, yeah, I'm fine. We're gonna deal with it how we deal with it. Like, what do you mean? Instead of maybe having someone maybe that spoke Spanish or spoke to us in a way that was like, hey, there's all these resources. I didn't find out about the resources until I was well in my 20s, and I'm like, well, can't go to camp now. TAPS seems really cool. Wish I would have known about that when I was 16. I would have loved to, been there with them or whatever. Like now I'm in my 20s, and that's just kind of weird, feels like.
If you have not had a chance to get involved with TAPS, it is not too late.
Are you sure? It still feels weird. I don't know. I'm in my 30s.
I promise.
I have
So
a daughter.
the podcast is partnering with them.
That's amazing.
And Bonnie Carroll, the founder of TAPS, is just one of the best people ever. But some of the programs you may have, obviously aged out of, but you're going to get to the point to where you can just meet up with other siblings and find that community with them. And that was so huge for me. Like that was my game changer in everything, was just realizing, okay, I'm not crazy. Because like you said, you're like for, 2 years, you basically just acted like your brother was still alive in Texas somewhere. That's what I did too. I was like, oh, he's off on a secret mission. He's going to pop back in, at some point, and everything's going to go back to normal. And it still hasn't happened, It's wild. And being able to just speak to other siblings that have been through that and understand all of that, it's a big deal. So let's go back to after you get the news and everything following up. I know those days are a blur. Do you remember anything in particular about community coming out to support you guys?
Yes. So when his body actually landed at the Hobby Airport, there was these veterans on motorcycles with these huge flags, and it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Like I felt just so much love coming from them, and they picked us up, and we were in the limo, and we're headed to the airport, and they surround the aircraft. Like just a beautiful ceremony. And, they got these big flags and stuff. And I was like, wow, like for my brother, like it really made him feel like really special. I'm like, dude, he would have loved this. Like he was like, I want to be famous. He was very like, I want people to know me. Like he was just really just funny like that. And I was like, dude, he would have been like, yeah, that's badass. Like, look, they're doing that for me, And I was like, shit, like, God, why are you doing this? Like, why did this happen? Like it's something that you don't want to be a part of, but I'm so grateful that they did do that, because I know he would have loved that. So that was really, really nice. And they stayed with us the entire time of the wake and stuff like that too. So, they made sure that the church was safe, I guess. And, they had their flags and stuff. So it was really, really nice.
I love that they did that. The Patriot Guard is,
Okay.
I assume, who you're talking about.
I guess.
I've heard a lot of, if you don't know what their role is, they are really cool. So they helped escort my brother through our neighborhood. They took the hearse through the neighborhood and all that kind of stuff, and they escorted him through. But they also played block during, I'm not sure if you remember the Westboro Baptist Church group that would like hold up like terrible signs about thank God for IEDs and stuff like that. They would be the guys that would be opposite of those protesters, making sure that they were blocking them from the families from seeing them. So they came for my brother's funeral. They are awesome. And unfortunately, there's some families that didn't know what they were. And when they were offered the Patriot Guard, hey, would you like the Patriot Guard to come along? They'd be like, no, that's okay. We don't need it. And in retrospect, they're like, we really wish we would have had that. So I think it's cool that even though there was a language barrier with mom, that they still showed up. That
So
to
my
me is
brother was-
awesome.
Yeah, he was married at 23 too. So, you know, she had some more awareness, I guess, of things like that. So I'm pretty sure that was her doing, because I don't remember them asking us at all. So but that was really, really nice that they did that. I mean, that was incredible.
So you said he was married when he died?
Yes.
Okay. So how did that affect
Well,
things for you
sweetheart.
guys?
It was, I guess, awkward. I mean, I know they had been high school sweethearts, and then she's 23, so I can only imagine, right? Like, you're just married, you know, I think they were married for 8 or 9 months before he passed. You know, after that, we sort of just lost touch, right? Orlando was the thing that was kind of holding us together there, you know, and she's moved on and stuff like that. I don't blame her, right? She was 23. She was just starting her life out. So we kind of lost connection over time.
I found myself kind of getting lost in all of this identity-wise. You kind of find yourself as a Gold Star sibling, and then what else are you at that point? Did you feel like you had any identity issues prior to this?
Yeah, I mean, we had plans with him right after him, you know, finishing up with the military. We were supposed to move to, move to Texas together. You know, he wanted to have that sort of extended family living situation. So he was like, you guys don't have to worry about anything. You're going to move into the house with me, you, Ed, and mom. We're going to be good. We'll all live together, sort of like happily ever after sort of thing. So we didn't plan for anything else, because that was the plan. There was no plan B. It was, you get out, we move to Texas, and that's it. So when that happened, it was like, oh crap. My mom was like, oh, okay. So now what am I doing? You know, what happens next? You know, we all sort of went in our separate ways. My mom also just, she had to keep working to support us, went off and was doing his own thing. So I just felt alone, and just, my mom was off. Ed was working or whatever, like, right, him and his friends. And then it was just me. So I was a loner. I spent a lot of time by myself, really disconnected from other people my age, because I was like, y'all don't get it. Like, I don't want to just go out and party. I don't want to do that. Like, do you guys not understand what I just went through? Like, oh, but it's been 2 years. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like it still happened yesterday. So no, I don't want to go party. Like, I'm not just, so yeah, I just felt really alone by myself. I embedded myself in working for the police department. I had like 2 or 3 jobs just to stay busy, I graduated high school and moved to Texas, went to college, majored in baby making, and I got pregnant. I have my beautiful daughter. She's here with me. And, that was a rough situation, 21 and having a child, and then I became a single mom. Moved back to New York. And now 3 years ago, almost 4 now, I moved back to Texas. So Texas always has been calling me, I guess. And Orlando's buried here too. So I get to go up and visit him whenever I want, as opposed to being in New York and it just not being feasible. So yeah, I guess full circle now. I'm here in Texas, and I'm able to be close to him. My mom is down here now too. She just bought her first house, and that was big major thing, because that was my mom's dream forever. It's like me and my other brother look up, because Orlando was going to buy my mom her first house, and that was the dream, the American dream too, And so we like look at each other. It was the other day, right? We look at each other and like, we both looked up and like, hey bro, we did it. Mom's got a house. So yeah, I don't know what your question was, but
You answered it beautifully. Thank you. It is hard, for me, I had to break out of it for like 5 years, and just like, there's more than that. It's almost 10 years where I was just like, I don't want to associate it with it anymore, because every time I'd associate, somebody would argue with me, or I'd get upset, or it just,
associate.
I wanted, like, nobody would if I said that I was a gold star, out in public,
Yeah.
or when I was playing shows before, or if I was like even in a work setting, I'm like, oh yeah, my brother died. People don't know how to react to that, right? They get weird. So I just stopped because I was like, I don't want to get special treatment for it anymore. I don't want any of that kind of stuff because it's not for me, it's my brother. And then, I struggled really hard with the idea of should we monetize this kind of stuff? You know what I mean? Because it sounds bad. But when you also look at it as nobody else is pushing this shit, nobody else is pushing these stories. Dateline's not telling your story, and your story deserves to be told. That's where I'm torn. Nobody's coming in to be like, hey, here's a bunch of grant money for it. But if we can tell these stories and we can get TikTok to pick it up and to make it go viral, I'm okay with it monetizing at that point because I've had money. You know what I mean? Like I was a successful real estate agent. I don't need that shit anymore. I know what I'm comfortable with. I want to tell these stories. That's what I want to do for the rest of my life if I can, is just tell these stories.
Oh, that's awesome.
And with that
from your one
comes
video-
monetization. What's that?
From your one video, my fiance just sent me what the flag meant, right? And we got asked that all the time. Why is this one gold or this one blue or whatever? And so I reposted it because, yeah, a lot of people don't know what that means at all. And so I reposted it and he sent it to me and I was like, man, this is really awesome. I sent Raul to like your page because I was like, hey, like this is so cool. I mean, he's got a podcast studio and it's called Charlie Mike, and he's got a podcast too that he, has veterans on and they speak about their, journey and everything. And we got connected through one of my brother's high school friends, and we just hit it off because it feels like only military really understand, and I don't have to explain what Gold Star family means and go into all that or whatever. So there was like a connection there. And he tells stories about veterans and transitioning and civilian life and yeah, I always felt like there was a like, what about the families? What about the people that pass? Like, yeah, like that. I love the stories of veterans and everything. That's amazing, right? How they all of that. And then it's like, what do we, it's a
I find
touchy
it hard for me to fit in because
Yeah.
I associate myself like you. I feel like a vet, even though I've never served. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
I've been more than half my life, I've been involved with the Marine Corps. And prior to that, I was in the JROTC for the Marine Corps for 2 years. You know what I mean? So it's very ingrained in me. So when people ask me, did you ever serve? I obviously would never say yes. I'd never steal somebody's valor, but I always say no, but I'm a Gold Star family or a Gold Star sibling. And 95% of the time I get congratulations. And I'm like, you don't know what that means, do you? And I stopped doing it for a while, but now I just do it. And I'm like, oh, well, that means my brother was killed in Iraq. And then I just wait for their face to, drain completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't feel bad anymore because if I'm not the one spreading the word and teaching the people, nobody else is doing it. I've waited 19 years for this to become a common knowledge thing for the general public outside of the military communities. It just hasn't happened yet. So if I can, get attention and I can get people to figure out what this is outside of the military community, I'm going to friggin' do it at this point because I kind of know what I'm doing to it. Well, I feel like I know what I'm doing sometimes.
You'll get there.
Any other stories you want to share with me before we cut this today? And by the way, I would love if you ever find yourself in Florida. I am about an hour away from Disney World.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to have a studio set up. You feel free to hit me up and I will get you in here and we'll do another one face to face. But if you have any other stories that you'd like to tell about him today, I'd love to hear them too. If not, then we can start finishing this up. Also, no pressure to like be on the spot and like tell this story. I didn't mean to do it like that.
No. Nah, like he was, yeah, he's just a great guy.
I truly enjoyed my conversation with you today.
Yeah, like he had an infectious smile that like would just brighten up any room. Loved kids, was super playful and funny, and he was like when he tried to be funny, he wasn't. But when he was being himself, he was hilarious. Like we used to have this game as kids and we would try to make each other laugh. And Ed was like the expert, right? He would make a fart sound and it was just, we would bust out in laughter. Orlando, it was like he couldn't make us laugh at all. And then when he'd get upset or something or whatever, and then he'd be himself, we would like bust out laughing. Him trying to be funny was funny than him yeah. But anyways, yeah, he's just a really good guy. Just you wanted to be his friend, you wanted to be around him, give you the shirt off his back. Just all around good guy. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing Orlando with us today. I really appreciate it, and it was nice to get to connect with you on a sibling level because I just can't get enough of that to
Yeah.
feel like I'm not alone in the world.
For sure.
So let's stay connected, and I'm going to hit stop on this for now.
Okay.
And just give me a few seconds for it to finish uploading. Angelica, thank you for your honesty, your humor, and your strength. Today's episode reminded us that grief doesn't always shout. Sometimes it sits quietly in a police department basement or behind a closed bedroom door at 16 years old. Specialist Orlando Perez wasn't just a soldier. He was scrawny, sharp-dressed, wore thick glasses, and absolutely sucked at making people laugh on purpose. But he was the protector, the big brother, the son who always called, the kid who ironed his clothes every day and promised his family they'd all live together again. He was also a husband and just 23 years old. And when he died, the knock on the door didn't just steal him. It shattered a family. It splintered futures, and it left a sister, a mother, and a brother to carry his legacy alone. If this story moved you, share it, say his name, and support the families who didn't get their homecoming. Gold Star siblings aren't a footnote. They're the silent carriers of grief. And now, as we always do, we raise a glass. To Orlando, the sharpest dressed kid in the room, even when he was being body slammed by his siblings. To the protector, the ironer, the friend who'd give you the shirt off his back, perfectly pressed, of course. You weren't the loudest, but your presence was everything, and that knock at the door didn't just end a life. It changed 3 more forever. To Nicolasa, who moved across states for a better life and raised warriors with love and discipline. You didn't get the language support you deserved, but you stood tall anyways. We see you. To Ed, the middle brother, the quiet one, the one who got the call and let himself cry, even if it was the first time in years. We remember that. And to Angelica, 16 years old and told to answer the door. You've carried so much for so long, but you're still standing, still remembering, still speaking your brother's name. Here's to Orlando, the man who deserved more time, and to the family still holding his legacy. Say their names, Specialist Orlando Antonio Perez. Angelica asked me to give a special shout out to the Charlie Mike podcast and Raul Moreno for helping make this possible, and also a special thank you to the American Legion Post 388 for helping them feel included, and to Ribbon Racks for the gift given to their mother. A special thank you to our Gold Star Story supporters: Terry Mullins, Danielle Mettle, Jackie Mullins, June Letendre, Edie Howard, Bob and Pat Scott, Mary Jo Stoy, Helen Krupp, and Georgia Franco. Thank you, and if you would like to support our stories, you can visit goldstarStoriesUSA.com or visit buymeacoffee.com/Gold Star Stories. If you prefer Cash App, you can donate at Gold Star Stories. Thank you again for listening. Remember to look after your people, and we'll see you next time on Gold Star Stories.